EST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, opinions, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We are rolling out of here today on episode 295 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I have a really kick-ass episode for you here today that I try to do every single week right here on The Hodder Show. I'm sitting down with my bearded badass pro wrestling buddy, Alexander Kable, of course, of the tag team Cayen and Kable, aka Fear the Beard, as well as just a badass singles pro wrestler. And we are doing it's definitely a very different conversation from the last time I had Cayen and Kable on. Similar to the conversation I had with John Cayen, who is Cable's tag team partner, a few weeks back. We just kind of have a fun out of character conversation, talk about actually a lot about mental health in the beginning, which I think is always a very important topic to discuss, and why, with what Kable is doing right now with this initiative that he was doing at the time when we were recording this, I think actually he's still doing it, why it's important, and how mental health, overall, everyone's mental health overall has been affected by COVID, how his has been affected, and it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. So we actually we do dive into that a little bit, which was nice to be able to talk about that with someone like Kable, seeing as he, once he gets in the ring, he beats people up and stuff, but even he is not afraid to discuss his mental health, because it's something that's very important. And then we talk actually a little bit about music and how he is picking up the guitar again, and then of course we'd have some pro wrestling talk, because why wouldn't we? And he actually tells us the story of his point of view of what happened at the Chinlock battle at the brewery, and one of my favorite pro wrestling moments I ever witnessed. And he kind of tells his side of the story as to what happened. And let me tell you, it's a great story. And he may or may not call some people out too. So stay tuned for that. It's a fantastic chat with Kable. Before we jump in, I, of course, want to thank everybody for their support on last week's episode of the show, in which I had my buddy Mike Penny from the Jailbirds on for a music showcase of their brand new EP, Jungle, that just came out not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago now. So if you have not checked out Jungle, check it out. It is a badass rock and roll EP from front to back, and you guys will definitely enjoy it. So Mike and the Jailbirds fan base and the other members of the Jailbirds, thank you guys so very much for all of your support on the 2 episodes I had Mike on. Next time we have the Jailbirds on the show, I think we're going to do a full band conversation. As much as, I enjoy just having Mike on, it's like, let's get everybody on and have ourselves a little chat ski. But without further ado, we're going to jump in to my chat with badass bearded pro wrestler Alexander Kable. Let's get into it. All right, guys, I'm hyped for this. We have my buddy who I haven't spoken with in a while, and it is very good to see you, man. Mr. Alexander Kable of Cayen and Kable, Fear the Beard, badass pro wrestler. Kable, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, man. First of all, it's good to see you, too. Good to talk to you again. I got to tell you, I'm a little bit tired. This week, I've been participating with a good friend of mine, my buddy Kevin. We've been participating in the Center for Addiction and Mental Health Sunrise Challenge. So we've been rising with the sun every morning, and it's a week-long initiative where we're trying to bring mental health awareness through social media and just, show like that everybody's struggling, right? Whether they want to talk about it or not, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people right now, mental health is something that a lot of us are struggling with during this lockdown. And the campaign and raising awareness and just talking about it and showing that we're here and everyone can relate is really important to me. So I'm not a morning person, and anybody that knows me will absolutely tell you that I'm not a morning person. And like waking up at 5 a.m. for a lot of people is nothing, but for me, it's been a real challenge. So, but I got my coffee. I got my good buddy here with me, and I'm doing good. Saturday morning, happy to be here.
Hell yeah, buddy. Well, it's funny because like when I reached out to you, I was surprised when you go, hey, like, could we do it earlier? And I'm like, I'm usually up around 6 now these days anyway. So I'm like, sure. And when you had told me the time, I was like, this is going to be the earliest podcast I think I've ever recorded. Because most people, it's the opposite, right? They're like, they don't want to wake up until like, oh, I'll be up around 12. I'm like, that's half the day gone, homie. So I'm excited that we're able to do it this early. But just kind of walk me through a little bit exactly what's like what more with that initiative is like. So you guys you've been raising, just kind of strictly raising awareness on social media and that, or is it like for a specific thing in like near you, or it's just kind of like a global initiative?
Well, so it's I believe it's all across Canada, the CMAH. I know it's for sure in Ontario. It's raising awareness and raising funds as well. I've been raising funds for it in my personal life. Not too much. I didn't want to do one of the social media posts because I know there's a lot of people who have lost their jobs due to COVID or on harder times or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to make this year. I just wanted to do it personally and with my family and a couple of friends. But yeah. And so the basically the premise is you rise with the sun, you take a picture of your watch, and you kind of like Jocko Willink. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, and you're supposed to do some kind of activity, whether it's like physical or journaling or, just taking a walk and getting your mind right. For me, it was DDP yoga. That's what I've been doing.
Nice.
And what's funny is,
bang.
Yeah, I love DDP yoga. It's great. What's funny though, is even though I'm getting less sleep, because I have a hard time going to bed earlier, even though I'm getting up earlier, just because my body's so used to falling asleep at a certain time. I've noticed that, getting up and doing it before work and just doing something before work and having time before work, I've been way more productive at work. And I never would have, if you told me that going in, that was going to be the outcome, never would have guessed. But yeah, so sorry, I kind of strayed from the original question, but so it's raising awareness for mental health and raising some funds for mental health. And they have like all these cool, every morning you get a wake up call from some personalities within either CMH or, just Canadian personalities and stuff. So it's been pretty fun.
That's awesome, man. And I mean, it's an admirable thing. And when you told me, because I think when you said like, oh, I'm like waking up at 5 a.m., I was like, why? Like, why would you wake up at such an ungodly hour? But then once you informed me what it was, I was like, that's awesome. So I'm glad you're doing it, man. And it's a really, really cool thing.
Well, it's, I personally, ever since wrestling's been gone, I've noticed a massive dip in my mental health, and I consider myself very lucky. I've got a great support system in my life. I didn't lose my job. All across the board, I've been doing pretty well, a lot better than a lot of people do. And I almost, for a while then, I was kind of feeling selfish about being upset. And then that just made me feel worse. And it's not something I am traditionally very good at talking about. So this is, and talking about it on this podcast is a big step for me. I just basically and I posted about it on my Instagram and stuff, but the whole idea here is that I'm trying to get better at talking about it, because if I can get better at talking about it, a stubborn guy who likes to get hit in the face and a guy like me, then,
through doors, whatever.
Exactly. Jumping off kegs. Hopefully then, it'll help other people who might be struggling to talk about it as well. And if you don't mind for 2 seconds, this is not a plug. It's just, I'm at Riley of Adelphia on Instagram. And if you need just an ear, my DMs are open all the time. So if any of your listeners just want an anonymous ear, like I'm not a professional. I'm not here strictly to help, but I know how good it feels to just talk about things. So
sometimes just being able to vent about something to someone not in your immediate life it's a wonderful outlet to have.
Exactly.
It really is. So that's, be sure to, if you're listening to this and you're in that type of situation and you want someone to talk to, I mean, hey, goes without saying, folks, it's, if you're listening to this podcast, you know how to find me. And I mean, I'm always here too. There's always people out there for you. And we were talking before about how there was a period of time where during this, where I was kind of in the same boat, where I was like, I guess not. It was a little different for me because mine was more out of frustration, because I was, and this is, I mean, now looking back on it, I'm like, I cannot believe I was thinking like this, because just, it almost makes me feel sick to admit it to myself, but it's like, I was talking about it on the podcast, like basically around probably late to mid last year, when I was just like, man, I'm working every day still. Like, I don't have any real time to myself. Like, oh, I wish I could be at home for months on end. Oh, I would get all this podcast stuff done and I would do this and that. And I was really getting, for lack of a better term, grumpy about it. And it wasn't until one day I spoke with a friend of mine who literally had been at home since March with no interaction with people aside from Zoom. And he was like, yeah, like, I'm not okay. And, I can say now he's doing great and he's able to,
good.
So like he, which is wonderful because he's one of my best friends. And I was kind of like, wow, here I am still having social interaction. I'm able to leave my house. Like, what is, and I remember saying like to people like, man, I can't believe I was thinking like that. Like, that's really selfish of me. And that being said, it's also like, you're allowed to feel the way you feel as well, right? That's speaking with mental health. That's something too I've never been great with, but it's like, you're allowed to be upset about something. You're allowed to feel a certain way about something, and you're completely justified feeling that way if that's how you feel.
Well, yeah, it's like they always say, like, and that was a hard subject for me too. But it's your perception is your reality. So how you feel in a situation is totally valid, and no matter what somebody else who observes the situation from the outside has to think about it, it doesn't change how you're feeling.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. And that's why sometimes having an outside perspective on something, if you're kind of like, that's always been my thing, right? Like with mental health, I'm like, just because we're talking about this, like, I've always been like, like, does this make sense that I'm upset about this? That's always been my thing, because like, I mean, like you were saying earlier, I'm blessed to have a wonderful support system and relationships in my life and family and things of that nature. So like, I'll be like, should I really be upset about this one thing that it's bothering me this much and I'm this upset about it? And it's just understanding that, like, your feelings are justified and you're sometimes just having someone to, that's my thing. I need a good vent once in a while, right? Like, that's my thing. I'll just go off about a bunch of random stuff for no reason. And then afterwards I'll be like, okay, I feel better. I'm blessed to have this outlet, and be able to talk to, buddies like yourself and other random people about life. And it's just like, sometimes that's all you need, but it's knowing that you can reach out to people, Yeah,
you'd be surprised too. It's like, sometimes it's literally just a small issue that you're just holding on to. The more you hold on to it and the more you have this anxiety about, should I be feeling this way? Etc. It turns something small into something big. And then you finally sit down and you talk to somebody, or you send a message, or you make a post about it. And it's like, oh, wait, it's just gone. Not always the case, but
for sure, of course,
nice when it works out.
Yeah, it's of course, like, it varies. You can't, like, some things, it's best to speak with a professional. And that's something that a couple people in my life this past year, for the first time, they did that. And, they were freaking out about it. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to talk about everything. Well, you don't have to talk about everything. Start off talking about the little things. And now it's like, a few months later, and they wouldn't mind me saying this, but like, now a few months later, they're like, I cannot believe I didn't do this sooner. Yeah. Like, I feel like a new person. I'm like, sometimes it's taking that first step is so important to do. And everyone does it at their own pace. Not everyone's ready to tackle all of the, everything that they might be feeling, but it's like, sometimes just tackling the small things, can really help.
And what really gets me, right, is, and I got caught up in this too, it's the stigma around it. Like, if you're playing sports and you injure your knee, nobody questions you for going to a doctor and getting it looked at, right? But like, I feel like it's much less than it used to be. Like, I remember growing up, there was the couple kids in high school who were seeking help. And I remember, unfortunately, kids being asshole kids. That was a point of contention. But really, it's no different than seeing your family doctor for a checkup, or, a sports injury professional if you hurt yourself. But it's just something that the people need to let go of.
Definitely. And I mean, there's this, and that's something that's great. Like, over our lifetime, especially, I would say, I'm not that much older than you, but like, with in my lifetime, even like I've seen a lot of the stigma around it being lifted, right? Mm-hmm. And it's happening more and more as time goes on, and that's great. The thought of, as a emotional dude, a big softie, a few years ago, I wouldn't want to admit that like I'm an emotional dude, and like, I'm a big softie, like, and whereas now it's like, and it's kind of sort of all in the same vein, right? Where it's like the stigma of people going, oh, well, you cried watching, what was the last movie I cried watching? Oh gosh. I don't know, some emotional Disney movie, whatever. Pick one. That was probably the one. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you cried watching a movie? Oh, you're a big baby. Like, oh, like, I can't believe it. And it's like, oh, you feel bad? Like, oh, you're a big, oh, you're in your feelings. It's like, that kind of stuff isn't as common anymore. Like, it's not super unheard of for, pretty rugged dudes in the world to be like, hey, like, I'm upset about something. You know what I mean? Is what I'm trying to say. And it's, and just, that's okay to be like that. I'm a firm believer if, Zach Wilde said it best, folks. If a man doesn't bleed and he doesn't cry, you don't trust him because he's not a man.
I like that. I've never heard that before, but I like that. I'm the same way, man. I'm a very emotional guy too, which is, it's very different than when I'm in the ring or, when I got the leather pants on, but, that's part of why I like it so much, because it's a big escape. But I cried during, not so much movies. Some movies for sure. Wrestling gets me a lot though. Like a really emotional moment in wrestling. Like just off the top of my head, when Rhea Ripley beat Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship, and they brought all the fans in the ring, and she was crying, and I was like, darn it,
damn it,
there we go again.
There it is.
But and you're right. And like, the other thing too is like, I'm a big hugger, which is why COVID has been really hard for me. Like when I see my dudes, there's a lot of handshaking in the wrestling world. I screw that, pull it in for a hug. And I was talking to my dad about that. He's like, man, when I was your age, do you never see dudes hugging? It'd be like a handshake or like maybe a fist bump. And he's like, yeah, no, guys didn't hug.
For sure. It was, and that's something even like with me too, right? Like I'm a hugger. I want to hug everybody. You know what I mean? And like, I've always been like that. But when I was in high school, like people thought that was strange. This dude hugging everybody. Like, I'm just like, it's not worse now. It's just like, it's not that weird. Yeah. They were buddies of mine that kind of were weirded out by it. Now it's just like, well, not now, meaning like right now. 'Cause obviously, we're still trying to be safe and everything, but it's like, oh yeah, when I see certain people after this whole thing, it is, man, when I see you for the first time, it's going to be a big bro hug. I don't even give a shit. I'm just going to be like,
as long as we don't get our beards tangled up, I don't want to have to get snipped out.
Oh man. Yeah, that's it, man. And I mean, it's, at the end of the day, like a lot of people have been, having a hard time. And I mean, we both live in Ontario, so like we're in the same boat, whereas some people are in different situations. But like for us, like we're kind of sort of maybe hopefully knock on fake wood, lock on my wooden beard comb, that we're kind of sort of getting in the right
edging our way out, hopefully. Yeah.
Fingers crossed, folks. Last time I said that on the podcast, it wasn't the case, so we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, it's, everyone's been having a different time. Yeah. With COVID and, there's in the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything. And there's no right or wrong way to feel at the end of the day, just to kind of.
True. However you feel is the right way you feel about it.
Exactly. There's all these people that are like, oh, I've been using my time at home to get in shape and blah, 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 blah. And that's awesome. Let me be clear on that. That's awesome. I have gained weight. So if you want to lose weight, right on. I get it for sure. And there's people that have had a lot of good things that have happened in this past year. And I mean, that was like I was telling you before, for me, that was something that was hard for me when I'm like, oh, hey, I got my career job that I've wanted for
and congratulations. Like 10 years. I congratulated off the show, but I gotta say it again.
Thank you. So it's like, hey, I'm really happy about this, but like, 4 people I know just lost their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but at the same time, you know, it's like, I'm allowed to be happy about this. People are like, oh, my life's shit right now. And I'm like, I just have this job. That's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, so it's.
And I'm sure like even those people, if they're really your buddies, I'm sure they're still happy for you, because you can be feeling the way you're feeling and still be happy for your friend too. But
exactly, right. And it's kind of finding the balance of understanding that, you know, everyone's going through something different, right? That's my thing. Like I always approach every conversation I have just like, how are you doing? Like, how's things going? Like, because some people, they're having a really, really hard time with this, because especially young, I feel really bad, especially for much younger people, because just like, you know, like I work at a school and where it's elementary. So it's literally kindergarten to grade 8.
Yeah.
And these kids are just like, they don't know how to even be people yet.
Yeah.
And they're being thrown into this thing, and it's like, okay, you have to still develop and find out who you are as a person and all this stuff, but you have to do it at home.
Yeah.
It's like, and
like they already have a curveball thrown at them, because they're the first generation that's grown up with, you know, the young people having, like, elementary school students having social media.
Yeah.
And cell phones, which is a whole rabbit hole I could go down that I'm not going to. But I mean, on top of that, they're also now, you know, dealing with this pandemic and not being able to see their friends and not being able to play in, you know, rough houses, as I'm sure we both did when we were younger. And but, you know, it'll be an interesting chapter in the history books for sure.
It's crazy to think that, like, I mean, this is for sure in our lifetimes, this is the craziest thing we've ever lived through, for sure.
Yeah.
I would say it have to be. You know, so it's going to be interesting. Once it's all said and done, it's going to be really interesting to talk about. Just be like, whoa, that.
Remember those 2 years there, a year and a half of loss? Yeah.
You guys remember that? Like, yeah, like we said, folks, like the next time we do a podcast, it's going to be in person, and we're going to having a couple of beers.
Can I say hell on your podcast?
Absolutely. You can say whatever you want.
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. We're going to be sitting around some beers.
Oh, hopefully, hell yeah.
Give me a hell yeah. It's the first wrestling impression I've ever done on recording. So,
well, there you go. It wasn't bad. You do any other wrestling impressions?
Not that I'd admit to. Next, when we get a beer or two, then you know that episode will do some impressions.
Okay, because the only ones I have, no one will know. It's just unless they listen to something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, you won't know the impressions.
That's a good show. I like that one.
Oh yeah, that's my, as far as my and it really kind of reignited my wrestling fandom a little bit too. I'm not gonna lie, like with like WWF and WWE and that, like listening to that show, I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, like I used to love that kind of wrestling, not just independent wrestling. You know what I mean? That's great, man. Well, as far as just kind of talking about like the pandemic and COVID and all that, what kind of have you been up to the last year and a bit with everything going on, man?
Well, you know, as I said, I've been working, so my work week schedule hasn't changed all that much. But apart from that, yeah, I've been reconnecting with some old gaming buddies on Discord. God bless Discord.
Nice.
Don't know what I'd be doing without that. Playing some Jackbox, playing some old school MMO stuff, having a good time. Now I've been watching some wrestling. I took there's like I want to say like a 6 or 8 month. I just had to remove myself from it. And like I felt bad because I stopped answering in my group chats, and I just needed some time to chill.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Because I think we all kind of thought, a couple months off, we'll be back, and that just didn't happen. But then recently, I built a gym in my basement. I ordered a squat rack. I got a bar. I got plates. I got a treadmill. I got everything set up down there. And so I was really excited about, I'd have this gym in my house, be getting back into it, working out, getting into shape, going to come back better than I was before even. Mm-hmm. And then I got, for work, I got moved out of town for a project. So I haven't been able to, like literally the week I dubbed my gym finished. They're like, hey, you're moving. So, but it's almost done. So pretty soon I'll be back living at home and be using my gym and stuff. But I've been doing DDP yoga. Love DDP yoga.
Feeling the bang.
Yeah, man. I'm more flexible now than I have ever been, which is great. Because, and I bought an iron neck too. Iron necks are pretty cool. I don't know if you know what that is.
What is an iron neck?
It's some people say it's a gimmick, but it's a piece of workout equipment for your neck. It's this halo thing that you put on your head, and you
looking it up, folks. Look this up.
It's pretty cool. It's got a clip on it, and you can hook a resistance band up to it, and they give you this whole brochure of exercises to do with it, and it strengthens your neck, so you get that big big wrestler neck. And it protects you from injury. It's supposed to prevent concussions. It's really big in.
I've heard Joe Rogan talk about this before.
Yeah, that's where I heard about it too. But I literally watched some reviews on it and stuff, and like Thug Rose from the UFC.
Yes,
she did a video on it, and I was like, all right, you know what? She seems stand up enough that I would trust her opinion of the subject.
It's literally like a halo. Yeah, I've heard Rogan talk about it because, of course, the Joe Rogan of Ontario listens to Joe Rogan. That's a joke, folks. That was a joke.
Hey, Joe, it's an honor to be on your podcast.
Yeah, it's right. It's been said before on the podcast. I always joke about it whenever his name comes up. But as far as with that, it's funny because I heard him talking about it one time. And people were like, "Oh, that's not a real thing," and he's like, "No, bro, it really works." So have you actually noticed a difference with it?
Yeah, so I was gonna buy it. I wanted it. It's a little expensive, and then my tax return, the last part of my tax return was the exact amount, the exact amount of one, and I was like, well, that's a sign. So I ordered it. I've only had it a couple of weeks, so I wouldn't say I've noticed a huge difference, but it does. It's weird because after you work out with it, obviously, I'm sure it's gonna go away, but any kind of workout, when you're not used to it, you get the delayed onset muscle soreness.
Of course.
And it actually feels the same as your neck after your first good day of bumping. So, I mean, it seems like it's doing something. But relevant to your interests, you asked what I've been doing. I have picked up my guitar again.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sitting up for this one. Okay. So what caused you to just want to get back into it?
So I have a cottage, a family cottage that's been in my family for a long time, and my uncle plays guitar on the campfire there. And I took guitar lessons when I was a kid, but I didn't really have any kind of discipline when I was younger. So I didn't practice enough or whatever. I just wanted to be good without practicing, which obviously doesn't work.
The TJ Hodder method.
Hey, I've heard some of your stuff, and if that's without practicing, more power to you. No, I'm sure it's not.
Brother, listen. I worked at a music store for a long time, so I learned how to act like and look like I knew what I was doing just enough so that people who didn't play were like, "Oh my goodness, you are so talented." And then a real guitar player would walk in and be like, "Man, what are you doing?"
It's like me in wrestling. That's exactly what I do on the right.
Oh man, this guy is so good. Then it's like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you jumping off kegs, bro? What are you doing?
Oh well, I saw the kegs and I couldn't not jump. I was hoping somebody would be the voice of reason, but in the world of wrestling, there is no voice of reason.
No. Even I was like, yo, are you actually doing that? That's cool. Do you remember that picture I had? Just go off on a tangent before we get back to the guitar thing. Do you remember that picture I sent you when you?
Yeah, with my ring gear with the backwards baseball cap. And I'm like, yeah. I used that in something. I forget what. I don't think it ever saw the light of day. But yeah, no, that's probably one of the best backstage pictures. That'll be in, when I do a retrospective collage, at the end of my career, I'm sure that one will be in there.
Oh, definitely. And that's when your biceps turned a little bit. And it's
that's you got a good angle on that one. But yeah, no. So my uncle, going back to the guitar thing, plays guitar.
For sure, yeah.
And last summer, I was like, I have this acoustic guitar that I don't have it. I looked over it was right next to me. It's not. But
it might be. It's I don't know. I figured it was there. I don't know.
No. It's at where I'm living for work right now, just because that's where I have the most time to play it. But I was like, there's not much going on. I have all this. I have weekends free again. I have evenings. Let's see if I can pick it up and learn one song to play around the campfire. And so that's what I did. I remembered all the chords, so that was half the battle.
That's good. Yeah, that's half the battle, dude, for sure.
And then I found this. It's kind of like karaoke, but for guitar. It shows you what chord is playing. It's only for certain songs. I found it on YouTube, but I just every time I had 5 minutes, I'd pick it up, play the song, pick it up, play the song, and then eventually I didn't need the book anymore. I was playing, or the video. I was playing along with the song, And so, yeah. And then I played it around the campfire last summer and it made my uncle really happy. So that was...
So what was the song?
Time of Your Life by Green Day.
Nice. Good riddance.
Yep. And I think it also made my mom happy too, because she paid for a lot of guitar lessons and never saw any of the benefits until then. So
well, you were busy being a wrestler. Come on.
That's true.
So now can I pitch you a gimmick now? Now that you know how to play guitar a little bit? It's gonna be like a new age honky tonk man. Like you'll come out, you'll have the beard and everything, but like we'll dress you up in like a country outfit.
Okay. All right.
You'll be like Colonel Cable or something like that. And you'll come out and you'll do the honky tonk man gimmick, but like you'll only play Good Riddance by Green Day.
Can we get John to come out with a banjo and like a
please. Oh my goodness, that would be great. Because he could probably, because like he played bass and stuff, right? So he could probably actually get away with a little bit. You know, he could play along with you. You guys can do a rendition of it. Oh, come on, that needs to happen now.
Well, we'll work on that, John. When you listen to this, just know it's coming.
It's coming, John. Listen, it's gonna happen. We're gonna. That's fantastic. Well, that's great. So, is there like any other songs you've kind of been like wanting to learn, or you're just kind of like, okay, let's stick with this for now? Like,
well, I've been picking away on a couple. I think anybody that takes a look at me would assume that I'm a metalhead. I got the long hair, I got the beard, I got the snake bites. I used to have even more piercings. Tattoos and all that, but like I grew up and in my heart I still am a country boy. So nice, yeah. A lot of the music that I want to learn is stuff that probably nobody's not too many of your listeners are familiar with. But,
so is it like old school country, or is it like
so old school? Yeah. So I absolutely love Willie Nelson.
Nice.
Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard.
Nice.
I know
that's like the soul of country right there. Those three, you put them all together. That's like the soul of country.
And, David Allico too. And then not country, but also old school. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan.
Nice.
So there's a bunch of his stuff I'd love to learn, but then there's also like all this super cool new country music that's kind of flying under the radar. Cause it's not the country that gets played on the radio, the stadium country or whatever. Like guys like Zach Bryan and Tyler Childers, like those guys, I would love to be able to just pick up and play guitar like them, or even just, not as fancy because they've obviously been doing it, their whole life, but just to be able to strum along to some of their tunes, that would be, and it's good campfire music too. So it's two birds, one stone.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's why, so are you, just cause I got to bring him up because he's my favorite newer quote unquote country artist. Have you heard of any of Aaron Lewis's country stuff?
Yeah. Aaron from Stained, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He's I've listened to quite a bit of it. One of our friends at the cottage is actually every time we bring up country music, he's like, well, about the only one I know is Aaron Lewis.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
that's a lot of people's reaction to that. I'm going Aaron Lewis.
He made that transition really well.
Oh yeah. Cause he's at the end of the day, he's a country boy at heart. Right. So it's like he dropped Country Boy, which is that's one of the, I'm getting ready. I'm actually learning a few campfire songs myself
nice.
as we record this.
TJ Hodder, Alexander Cable, jam along one.
We'll jam. What's a song what's like an old country song we can jam? We can do like, what's that? Oh my gosh, that Johnny Cash song. Wow, my grandpa would kill me right now.
Well, it's hard because he's got so many good ones. You could be thinking of
the one he always did with June.
Walk the Line.
Oh my gosh, we got married in a feet. What the hell was that damn song?
Oh, now you got me. Damn it.
Jackson.
Yes,
Jackson.
Yeah.
We'll do Jackson.
I was gonna say we look horrible right now. We're just talking about how much we love Johnny Cash.
Man, if my grandpa were still here, he would smack me.
Yeah, if my uncle knew how to listen to a podcast, he wouldn't be too happy with me.
But that's cool, and that's the thing too. Like same thing with me. Like I'm a metal rock guy, obviously, right? But like for me, one of the best guitar lessons I ever learned in my life was from an older gentleman up in Cape Breton, who wasn't so much just old school country, but it was like, a lot of folk music and stuff like that. And I remember I'm sitting there, and this was when I was like 17, 16 years old, long hair, Yeah. I'm sitting there with my guitar playing like Alice in Chains and stuff. And he's just kind of like looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, that's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, she's like, oh, come play with us. Like play along, like him and like his little band and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, oh, well, obviously I'll be able to play along with these guys. I'm a great guitar player. And I was lost within 3 seconds, but they're just playing chords. And I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, he's just playing 3 chords over and over again.
Yeah.
And then next song, those same 3 chords over and over again. And it was like 12 songs. And I'm like, I don't get it. And he just kind of like looked at me and he's like, all right, here you go. You got G,
you got C,
and you got D.
Yeah.
If you really want to get sad, you got
an E minor. Yeah.
And he's just like, that's it. It's not about that. This is, he's like, music it's a feeling. It's not just the sound. It's this feeling. It's the way you're singing. It's the word you're singing. G, C, D, let's go. And then we played like 30 songs in a row, all with the same 3 chords. And they were all great songs. Mm-hmm. I'm just sitting there like, oh, you can have a great song with 3 chords. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what's funny is how applicable that is to other things.
Yeah.
You can have a great wrestling match with 3 moves.
Mm-hmm. Some of my favorite wrestlers in the world are not very flashy.
Yeah.
And it's like that with anything. You know, you don't need your podcast doesn't need to have 6 camera angles and a $3,000 production set and a producer that's paid hourly sitting behind the keys to be a good podcast.
No, man.
You know what I mean? Some of the best podcasts I've ever heard were some of the shittiest sounding. You know what I mean?
It's all about the content, you know. And,
exactly.
And I think the intention too, because I think if you, how do I want to word this? It's if you're trying to just be like have like this, right? This is a real conversation.
Yeah.
This isn't set up.
Just talking.
Yeah, exactly. But you could have like, you know, you could be recording on an iPhone. You could be recording a podcast on an iPhone sitting there, you know, and you have this well-rehearsed script that you're trying to put out, and like you're trying to be the next big guy. And I don't know. I don't feel like that feels the same way. It's not as genuine. It's all about intention. That's where I was going with that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, I've been getting seriously into like podcast audio dramas lately, like podcast horror audio dramas. I should throw that in.
One of my roommates is really big into that.
Really? Yeah, I'm obsessed, like obsessed. And I'm listening to one of my favorite ones. Shout out to the Grey Rooms, which is the best. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, man, like this is like just, oh my gosh. And the production and all this stuff, but it's the content that pulled me in, because then I listened to another one that I'm not going to name that sounded great, but the voice acting was terrible. The scripts were terrible. Everything was horrible, but it sounded great. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, that's the difference. It didn't feel as genuine. The voice actors didn't feel like they wanted to be there. You know what I mean? And I'm like, why would you hire voice actors that don't give a shit about what you're doing? Like, it's just, I'd rather hear an amateur voice actor who maybe stumbles over a word or like doesn't really know how to speak properly, but loves the material and gives that emotional performance, as opposed to, yes, I am a professional voice actor and I'm here to read your script. And they do the read through and it's terrible because they're just like, and then he went in through the door. Like, what? No one talks like that. Like, what do you? That's a really bad example, but I hope you.
No, I get for sure. Well, it's like, see, on the same subject of horror, like there are some fantastic, like independent or like even just small budget found footage horror movies that I love.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing. It's like, you know, it's a passion project. And then last week I watched. It's a bad movie, but it's probably my favorite bad movie of all time. Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And we looked it up, and the budget was $5 million, and it had like some of the least invested dialogue from some of the actors, just the forced exposition stuff. I was like, well, this had $5 million, and this one had 13,000, and I was way more entertained by this one. Mm-hmm. But I love Nicolas Cage, so Willy's Wonderland was great. All of his involvement was fantastic.
It's a great bad movie for sure.
Man, it's so worth the $6 to rent it on Amazon. I was, it overtook The Room as my favorite my favorite schlocky bad movie that you watch. Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in a while. The Room.
Man, there used to be this local theater like 5 minutes from my house, and every month they would do a screening of The Room with audience participation, and they would do a screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show with the full shadow cast that would act out the movie in front, and you had all the things. You'd throw the toast at the screen, and there was a whole audience participation script. Man, that was great. I was like 15, 16 years old. That was my Friday nights, man. I'd go play Magic the Gathering and then go watch a movie at the independent movie theater.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. It's cool to have that, right? And again, it's all about the passion of it, right? Like we're both in the business, so to speak, of doing something we're passionate about, right? Mm-hmm. So it's cool to hear that. And one world that I've been diving into that it's kind of the same thing as far as with you really see the difference between passion and someone who's just doing it for whatever weird reason. Is I'm very much getting into like writing fictional horror stories on Reddit.
Oh,
like
No Sleep?
Hardcore. Yeah, like No Sleep and stuff like that. Like I haven't really said anything. This is like the first time I've really talked about on the podcast, but like hardcore getting into it. Like I have my own subreddit now and everything.
Really?
Got super into it. Cause I was like, No Sleep is fun and it's great, but like I'd post these like other parts and they'd be like, well, like this doesn't really fit into what we want, but it's good. So you should like do your own subreddit. And I was like, isn't that only for like established people? And they're like, we think you should do it. And I was like, okay, No Sleep moderators, I will do that. So it's like, I'm just like, oh, like, but even there, I had a few people who hit me up over the last week and they're like, we love what you do because like you clearly love doing it and it's fun and you're interacting with people in character and all this stuff. And they're like, yo, like it's so fun. Mm-hmm. Like we message you respond in character when you don't have to anymore. In No Sleep, you have to like respond in character and stuff. And like it all feels so like not genuine. And like I genuinely have fun doing it. I'm like, yo, I get to pretend to be. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, and I'm like, I see some people and like I message them. I'm like, oh, hey, like I loved your. Well, I love your story and everything, and they're just kind of like, cool, thanks. Like, it almost seems like they just don't give a shit. And I'm like, well, then why are you doing it? Like, are you doing this to get famous? Because you're not doing a very good job because that's not the place to do it. Like, it's just like, I don't know. There's nothing I hate more than when people are doing things for the wrong reasons in the creative form. It's just, I'd rather see someone, like you're saying, you'd rather see a movie that has a budget of $13,000, but is like a passion project and is great because you feel that, as opposed to a terrible movie with Nicolas Cage, even though he was great at it, that has a budget of $5 million, but no one gives a shit about it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
for sure. Well, yeah, it's I feel like I bring everything back to wrestling because it's kind of like my favorite thing, but it's like wrestling too. Is like you can tell. I don't know. I think for me, wrestling's all about, making sure the fans have a good time and they're invested in it. And you can tell that there are some people who maybe aren't as interested in like, I like jaw jacking with the crowd. That's how I do it. It's not the only way to do it, but you can tell that there are some people that aren't as invested in being in the match and telling a good story that makes sense for the fans as others. And and I'm saying I'm a virtuoso. I'm still very new. I still have a lot to learn. But that's just like what I like to focus on because that's, the fans' passion is why we get to do it. Mm-hmm. If the fans weren't invested and wanted to come back, there wouldn't be shows.
At the end of the day, it is something that you should enjoy doing, and it is a artistic outlet, so to speak, because I view professional wrestling as an art form myself personally, because I'm just it's not just, it's just some dudes throwing themselves at the ground. It's like, well, no, it's like, that's one of the worst descriptions I ever heard of pro wrestling, by the way, from someone who like doesn't get it. They were like, so it's just dudes throwing themselves at the ground. I'm like, oh shit. All right. Okay. CM Punk. But anyway, that's time. But yeah, like I literally, like, you can really tell the difference. And that was something that drew me to you guys and to you as well. Like when I was watching as a fan, I'm like, like you can tell these guys like number one, you can like feel the energy as to just how much you enjoy doing it. But then also I'm watching you literally like yelling at like people in the front row. And I'm just like, yo, this is great. Like where has this been the whole show? You know?
It's funny too. Cause like hey, anybody who spends a lot of time around me knows that I'm pretty loud. I don't really get angry and I don't get loud. And I'm kind of there. But then it's so funny when somebody that knows me well goes to see me wrestle, especially if I do it more when in a place where the people don't like us, shall we say?
Yeah.
And then just be like, what the like, where was this guy? Like, I've known him for all this time.
That's Kable.
That's what makes it so easy, because it's just the opposite of what I would do normally. Like,
yeah, being and I didn't say this at any point during this chat, guys, but this is obviously a quote unquote out of character interview. Oh, yeah, not like the last time that we saw Cayen and Kable on the Harder Show. That was very different. But like
your English has improved a lot, by the way.
Yes, thank you. I've worked really hard at it. That's something that Cayen will still give me grief about once in a blue moon, but I do understand his reasoning. That was still a very embarrassing moment on the show, but we can look back on it. We had a good laugh when I had him on. We were talking about it. Excuse me. But what I was going to say was like with like when I met you guys, one of the big things for me that was like, so as I got to know you, I was like, these are just two really nice, cool, fun dudes.
Thank you.
As opposed to how you would think you would be in the ring, where I'm like, oh, why is this dude yelling at me? Like, it's just, it's just so fun. But that's, again, that's the, you're a character wrestler, the Kable we get right now here on the Harder Show is not the Kable you're going to get if you start yelling at him while he's in the ring. That's a different person.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. And if you are going to do it, make sure there's a barricade between you and me.
Yeah.
But
I have seen this man almost fight children. Okay. Don't. Not actually.
Hey, that kid had it coming.
That kid in particular, I know the one you're talking about. He should have been thrown out of the building, I think. Personally.
He should have. I was inspecting my arm to see if it was broken after taking a bad spill out of the ring, and he was laughing in my face. You just don't do that.
It's uncalled for. It's utterly uncalled for. And, as a fan, I hate to see those type of fans at ringside when a professional is ensuring that they're not injured. You're laughing at them. Like, are you going to laugh if he's actually injured, kid? Like, come on. I hope he's listening to this. Listen,
I hope he reevaluates. This might change the whole trajectory of his life, and it should change the whole trajectory of his life if he knows what's good for him. But all I can say is don't cross Kable twice, because nobody's that lucky.
And if you do, hope there's a barricade. Whatever. Teach you how to fear the beard, kid. I'm just saying, I have only crossed Cayen and Kable once, and that was over audio. So I was lucky, but it's not something I would do in person.
Well, you offered us some cool blunts to make up for it. So
this is true.
Yeah. Speaking of which, it's accept payment in the form of 6-packs.
So, kid, if you want to make up for the fact that you were laughing in this man's face, tell your parents to don't you go.
Parents,
the parents go. Wrestling is fun.
Sure. It's the best.
That's awesome. But talking about like wrestling and that, what was the last match you had before the pandemic? Was that the show in Ottawa?
No. My last weekend of wrestling, John and I wrestled 2 matches. Saturday, actually, I'm holding this up on the camera, but this isn't going to be video, so nobody's going to see it. This is my little blue book. I have
nice.
Every single match written down, the date, who we wrestled, what the outcome of the match. But so my last two matches were Saturday. We wrestled in Drummondville. Drummondville? Yeah, Drummondville. Yep. We wrestled the Quebec City Choir Boys or the Bay City Choir Boys. I think they changed their name. And we're in a gauntlet match for their tag team championships. Almost won, came super close. And then the following day we wrestled, and in the afternoon at Torture Chamber Pro Wrestling, our school, we wrestled Sabotage, and that was my last match. So there are worse matches to end on for sure. That was a good one.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing, right? Like if you can look back and be like, hey, that was a great match. So regardless of how long it takes, and I mean, I hope it's soon, I'm someone who I got into in the independent wrestling scene late, and I kind of, put it off isn't the right word, but like I really got heavily into it basically in 2019. And I was like, okay, 2020, I want to go to every show I can possibly go to. And now it's like, oh, I have weekends off now. Like I could actually go. Whereas before it was like, hey, it's just like, even go see you guys. Like, hey, it's like, oh, I got to work from 7 to 3 or whatever. And or 3 to 11, or it's just like, it's tricky, but now it's like, I have weekends off now. Like, oh my gosh. So I'm raring to go. I'm like, I want to go see Cayen and Kable throw some people through doors. Like, what's up?
I actually have, and I sent you a picture of this.
Yes, I was going to bring this up.
I have a growing collection of toys just waiting for wrestling day. But everybody around here, like all my friends, I'm like, garbage day. You see a door, you pick it up for me, or you text me a location, and I will come grab it. Chairs, anything, man. So I've got a pile of stuff sitting in my garage just waiting for wrestling to come back.
Only when, and this is, it's fun for me because like I have a few buddies now who are wrestlers, and it's like, only in wrestling will you be having a conversation with someone and then just get a text message picture of a bunch of doors and be like, oh yeah. And it's just, it's totally normal.
You actually saw the first door I ever went through.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's go back to that, because one of my favorite things I'd ever seen in wrestling at all, and that's a lot of years of watching wrestling, you were a part of, and you were a big part of, and that was at the Battle at the Brewery, the first one, not the second one. Yes, the first one, in which let's say that there was possibly some shenanigans that happened.
Oh yes,
but I guess we don't need to get into
attacked from behind. Yeah, yes.
If we're gonna say it, let's just say it. You guys were attacked from behind during your entrance when you were in a handicap match with Madman Taylor of Freak Nation versus, of course, Cayen and Kable, Fear of the Beard. And, you were attacked before the match by steel chairs. So, as someone who prefers to see, a legitimate, fair match, I wasn't a fan of that. But, I wasn't the referee. So, of course, I'm not able to say anything but that just as a fan. However, during that match, let's just say it like it is. I believe you guys were putting the beat down on Madman Taylor at the time, and you ascended quite possibly. It could have been 20 feet in the air. I don't know how tall it was.
25,
it was
30, 35. That's hard to tell. My ears popped, 40. So the elevation's getting up there.
Definitely. And it was, without a doubt, one of the most spectacular things I'd ever seen in my life. And, of course, Cayen was holding Madman Taylor. Mm-hmm. And Kable, 40-ish feet in the air, let's say.
Let's round it up. 50 feet in the air.
Let's call it, okay, let's call it 50.
We'll call it an even 50.
Let's call it 50.
Yeah.
There were some clouds. It was pretty high. So he jumped off these kegs with his arms locked together without a doubt would have been the most devastating double axe handle in the history of the wrestling business. Now, I don't know what happened because I didn't see exactly what happened with Cayen and Madman, but unfortunately, unless I'm remembering it incorrectly, Madman did get out of the way.
Look, I saw it clear as day. I had a bird's eye view of the whole situation. Madman reached back and grabbed Cayen by the beard. And you just don't do that, man. You just don't do that.
That should have been disqualification, in my opinion. But, again, as a fan, what do I know?
It was dark in the brewery. We're kind of out of the lights.
Yeah.
I don't hold it against the ref, but if he ever refs another one of my matches, I'm just saying get out of the way. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I think it should be added to the rule book that if a beard is grabbed in any way, I mean, that should be an instant disqualification.
Can we, can you get your loyal legion of fans?
Yes.
Here? Can we get a petition going on this? Change.org. Let's figure this out. Let's get to the bottom of this because I'm doing this right now. Tired.
Yeah, no. And you bring this, you say that, but I mean, this is something that has been bothering me for a very long time. And I haven't brought it up because I don't know when the right time was, but I think that us petitioning to make an official rule in the worldwide professional wrestling rulebook,
yes,
that beard wraps are illegal.
Yeah.
I think that should be,
we put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of products into these beards, and just for people just to use it against us, it's not cool, man.
It's disgusting is what it is. It's just disgusting. And it's tactics that I personally just can't. I'm speechless. I'm speechless because it just makes me so angry. And I cannot believe. I understand. Yes, Madman Taylor is, shall we say, a bit of a loose cannon, if you will. But even someone of his state, shall we say, you would think that he would even appreciate the fact that you should grab a man's beard. But whatever.
You would think.
It's what it is. And then, of course, he did attack Cayen with, I believe it was either a steel chair or a keg. I cannot remember.
Yeah, well, so actually, I was listening to your podcast with my tag team partner, and there was a small detail about that got missed.
Lay it on me.
He actually hit both of us with a keg.
That's right.
And there was a whole lineup of empty kegs, and I don't know if he has X-ray vision or he's got something going on there. He managed to grab the only one that still had beer in it and swing that one at us. So
there's even more weight added, not just the fact that it was a steel keg, which would even, superior athletes like yourself, you would feel that. You can't, there's nothing you can do about that.
You feel that one the next morning, let me tell you.
And then, of course, he did, unfortunately, Cayen was incapacitated on the floor. And it's hard for me to talk about because, as someone who, cares for you greatly, it was really hard to watch Madman throw your I'm sorry, guys. Hang on. It was hard to watch, him throw your near unconscious body in the ring, throw you onto a door, which me personally, I'm sitting there going, what is this crazy man doing with a door, or Madman, doing with a door? And all the while I see your partner, your brother in arms, crawling to the ring to try and assist you with everything that he has. And unfortunately, he didn't make it in time, and you were put through a door by Madman Taylor. But we can only hope, as your legions of fans, that we're able to get some comeuppance for that one day.
Well, you got. I'm not saying I got a chair with a picture of his face taped to it or anything, but
okay.
I'm not saying he's on a list that I may or may not cross off with a stick of red lipstick at some point, but you know what, Madman, if you're listening to this, and if you bring your tag team partner, don't bring your tag team partner, but don't bring anything you're not willing to get broken, and that includes your bones.
Okay, there you go, Madman. I'm just saying, better learn to fear the beard, buddy. I don't know.
But, as I was going to say, I have a piece of that door still. That's a little token that I'm going to hold on to really fuel my revenge on him. I got the piece of the door, and I have a cookie sheet that is imprinted with my face because it was swung at my face.
It's funny you bring that up because I have a cookie sheet as well that I can't remember if it was used to hit you as well, or you used it to hit someone, or someone hit John with it, or what the case was. But there was a cookie sheet you guys had, and Nick, I was like, we're just going to throw this one out. Like it's, it wasn't. And I was like, yo, can I have that? You guys were like, I mean, sure. So, hi mom. In my mom's kitchen, there's this cookie sheet, and she didn't know what it was. Like cause I brought it home. This is still living with my parents. Yeah. I brought it home, and I set it on the stairs going down to our apartment. I didn't think about it, or I just left it there for the night. It was late by the time I got home. And the next day she's like, oh, hey, I washed that cookie sheet and everything. It was sitting on the stairs, and I was like, no. So it was all bent back into shape and everything. And I was like, oh man. So now we use it to.
So those video challenges that were going around there for a while.
Yes.
I sure did. So I actually used the one that has the imprint of my face in it for one of those videos, because I I wanted in the video, I wanted to be baking cookies, but to have cookies for the video, I actually had to bake cookies. And I just thought it would be funny if I used the one that had the imprint of my face in it. So
that would be so like you're just literally baking cookies in one thing, and then the next thing that would be so funny. It would have been even funnier if the cookies were still on the sheet.
I should have done that. It would have been a waste of cookie, but I should have done that.
Well, like burn the cookies.
There you go.
5-second rule, man. Come on. Oh man, that's fantastic. But what's fun too, like, is with everything that's been going on, you mentioned that you obviously took a little bit of, for lack of a better term, a little bit of a sabbatical from wrestling, and that you've kind of been getting back into it. What kind of stuff have you been watching with wrestling? Like, is there any specific type of wrestling you've been watching, or just kind of whatever you can get your hands on?
Anything I can get my hands on. I have people that I like to watch as tape study, as we call it, that I like to try and take aspects from. And then I'm still a huge wrestling fan, so I watch pretty much anything. I watch, I unfortunately right now, I can't watch live most things, but I watch, recaps, highlights, matches from Raw, NXT, SmackDown, AEW, some Impact stuff as well. And independents, I have independent wrestling.tv now, so I am watching all kinds of stuff. And if you wanted to sign up for that, you can find some Alexander Cable matches on there.
You can.
Just saying, some of my best work. But that's fun, man. You just pick a random promotion that you know nothing about and just watch one of their shows, and it's one of the rare times where you just I feel like I never really got to be an independent wrestling fan because I found out about independent wrestling about 3 weeks before I worked at my first show. I literally didn't know it was a thing. I Googled how to become a professional wrestler, and that's how I found out about it. So I didn't really get to go and experience that. So it's kind of fun for me to pick a show where I don't know any of the guys and just watch it and sit there as a fan with my popcorn. So that's it's been a lot of different stuff and a lot of old school stuff too. I like some of the older, I got a friend that recommends a lot of All Japan matches to me. I have another friend that is really into death matches, and I like some of that stuff too. Some of the characters in deathmatch wrestling are super cool guys and super interesting to watch too. So, and that's a whole lot, people, say whatever you want about deathmatch wrestling, but that's an art too, to do all that and still, you walk away in pretty bad shape sometimes, but you'll walk away like that. Yeah. That's impressive.
The fact that you're walking period is a great, they're not carrying you out because you're unconscious because you just got blown up or whatever. I guess those are different from, or you're covered in barbed wire and they have to
or the glass light tubes there. You got all the shards of light tube in your back.
As someone who was hit in the head by one of those once, I don't recommend it. It's not pleasant. The things we do in our youth.
Yep.
My youth, I mean my early 20s. But and that's cool, man. This has been a really interesting time for wrestling fans too, because it's the first time we're watching wrestling without fans in the building, and it's just it's super. At first I was like, oh man, I don't know. But then did you catch WrestleMania at all this past year with fans back in the building?
Oh, talking about being emotional.
Yeah.
Watching that opening ceremony with all the wrestlers on stage and they're all holding back tears or not holding back tears, and all the fans in attendance, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm. It was such and I mean, I'm telling you right now, the first show back for, I mean, it's just because I'm such a big Chinlock fan, but that first show back at Chinlock, in which we see, of course, Cayen and Kable win the tag team championships, but that's maybe something else we're going to do another time. I'm going to be standing there bawling my eyes out watching professional wrestling for the whole night. So I'm just going to be this is not only because it's for me, I know people who are involved with Chinlock that, they've had a lot of struggles this year, and it's being able to see them in the ring. It's yo, that's going to be, but then at the same time, just being able to see live wrestling again, and it's going to be great. It's going to be an emotional thing for sure when that does happen.
In our theme song, we have a music cue where we normally step through the curtain. It's about 10 or 15 seconds in, depending on the version of the song that gets played. But I think I'm probably going to have to just hit the curtain as soon as I hear that first guitar note the first time, because I think if I stand there for the 10, 15 seconds, by the time I come through, I'm going to be bawling my eyes out. So I think I just have to like rip the Band-Aid off and sprint out and get through it and be emotional afterwards.
That's it, right? And I mean, you know, that's one thing too, where like, I think there's going to be people like that. You're not going to be able to help but be overcome with emotions during. If you stop for even a second in your match and just look at it, it's like, uh-oh. I know I would be, so I wouldn't even try and hide it. I'd just like walk out and be like, this is so great.
Yeah, the first time I get back to my hometown of Kingston, Ontario, and that's, you know, some people like to, you know, say different things about where they're from, but I am from Kingston and I am proud to be from Kingston, even though the fans don't always treat me the best there, you know, but getting the first time I make an entrance in my hometown again, it's going to be a hard one to hold on to.
Definitely, man. Well, you know, I will be there cheering you on and, you know, happy to see you and that we'll be able to share beer and everything, man. It's going to be great. And I hope that I hope we're getting there. I really do. Cause it's going to be great. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm like, I say a lot on the show. I'm positive thoughts and so forth.
Yeah.
Move forward. I'm like, we'll get there. Lights at the end of the tunnel. We just got to get there.
The conversations that haven't happened, I'm not going to say too much more than that, but conversations that haven't happened in over a year are starting to happen again.
Exactly.
So I don't think they'd be having those conversations if they didn't seriously think that something could happen soon.
Exactly. So we can all be, and you know, things are opening up in the States more and that people are planning tours where they have Toronto dates and stuff. So it's like, we're getting there, guys. You guys couldn't see it. I just did a little dance, but you know, hopefully we're getting there, man. That's just everyone keep your heads up. And, you know, if you need to talk to people and just be ready. Cause there's going to be some badass pro wrestling happening that you're going to want to check out.
And hey, when it comes back, don't sit on your hands. Don't try and be polite. Just scream.
Go nuts. Throw things at Alexander Cable. Okay.
If by things you mean beer, sure.
Sure. Yeah. Buy him a beer. If you say bad things to him during the show, buy him a beer afterwards and everything will be forgiven.
I'll try not to bite your head off. I'll try.
Or he will if you want him to. Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
I haven't had a fan ask me to chop them yet. So whoever asks first gets the honor of being the first one.
Duly noted. Oh man. All right. It's been a pleasure talking with you, my man. And I can't wait to be able to share a beer with you again and see you soon, man.
Oh yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And thanks for letting me talk about some things that were really important to me.
Of course, man. And again, like we say, guys, next time it's going to be Fear the Beard plus hotter, plus a few cold beers, and plus a camera, plus some microphones, equaling the greatest podcast you'll ever see.
Stay tuned.
For sure. All right. Thanks, Cable.
Thank you.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listen to The Harder Show right now. Are you in a band? Maybe you're a business owner of some kind, a performer, maybe a pro wrestler, an event promoter, an athlete, or maybe you're just an everyday person who needs some photo editing done. You need a great graphic design guy, and have I ever got the hookup for you? My man and close personal friend, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Whether you need logos, t-shirts, stickers, tickets, business cards, banners, menu, brochures, flyers, posters, Facebook banner videos, door hangers, photo editing and restoration, print ads, lyric video editing, signs, notepads, window clings, letterhead, bookmarks, programs, magnets, greeting cards, calendars, rack cards, invitations, envelopes, pens. Jason will work with you to develop a style that is unique to you and that tells everybody just how special your business, event, or you personally are, and you will stand out from the crowd. On top of the fact that he does offer free delivery between Cobourg, Ontario and Kingston, Ontario, message him today right now for a free quote. That's right, a free quote. Tell him about your idea. You got something outside the box, he will make it happen. With great rates and service, you cannot go wrong. I've used Jason literally for everything over the past 3.5 years, and I cannot say enough good things about the man himself and his work. So contact him today on the web at jaybirddigitalarts.com or on social media under jaybirddigitalarts. That's JAYBIRD digitalarts.com. You can also email him at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And always keep in mind that his business is successful when your business looks good. All right, folks, there you have it. My chat with Alexander Kable of Cayen and Kable, aka Fear the Beard. Badass bearded pro wrestler. What did I say in the intro? Badass bearded professional wrestling buddy or something like that. Try and say that 10 times fast. But Kable, thank you so very much, my man, for coming on. Was a pleasure to have such a real, just like genuinely great conversation with you, my dude. Always appreciate it. And it will be wonderful to be able to give you a big bro hug and share an ice cold adult beverage with you. Hopefully sooner rather than later, man. While I'm watching you win the Chinlock Tag Team Championships. What's up, Chinlock? What's going on? You know, Cayen and Kable, they're coming for you. But thank you guys so very much for supporting this week's episode. I very much appreciate it. Be sure to go follow Kable on all these social medias if you have not already. I will have links down below in the description of this podcast, regardless of how you are listening, whether you're listening on Anchor or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Stitcher or Castbox or Pods. I don't know how many other damn podcast apps there are. There's like 10,000 podcast apps. So however you're listening, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I very much appreciate it. Leave me a rating if you can. It is very much appreciated. I have a goal this year of being in the Apple podcast charts top 30 at least once this year. That is my goal. And I was at 38 this past year already, and I was at 35 last year. So my goal is to hit the top 30. But I need your guys' help to do that. I can't do it without you. You got to listen to the show on the Apple Podcast. Leave a rating if you can. That helps me climb the charts and stay there. My first goal is to get there. My next goal is to stay there. Which, with all the new music podcasts and stuff popping up, it is very difficult to do that. But with your guys' help, I can accomplish that. So, you want to help a brother out, be sure to go on the old Apple Podcast, leave me a rating, and listen to the show on there if you can. But either way, I just appreciate you listening. Thank you so very much. It means the world to me. Give it the old patented audio fist bump. Boom. Thank you so very much for listening, and I will catch you next time on The Harder Show. Take it easy, guys.